Hello class, this is Oscar for HIM5397. This presentation is going to look at the work I did for my practicum. For this semester, I chose to help faculty in doing research. The main aspect that I assisted the professors with was selecting relevant articles to include in the literature review. So this presentation is going to look at the concepts related to the research topic, which is security capitulation. I will be introducing it later in the presentation. Here's an overview of the presentation. First, we're going to define capitulation and protection motivation theory. Then we will look at methods for searching for relevant articles and the results from that search. Then we'll look at the article that reviewed information security literature and conducted fear-based studies. And the presentation will end with a conclusion and takeaway. Capitulation and protection motivation theory. Merriam-Webster defines capitulation as the act of surrendering or yielding. This research is conducted with capitulation that is related to security or cybersecurity. So the topic of research is security capitulation. Papers that investigate information security use theories to study people's feelings or perceptions about security. These theories are used as frameworks to carry out investigations. One theory used frequently to study information security is protection motivation theory, or PMT. Tabler Cyclopedic Medical Dictionary defines protection motivation theory as the idea that a person makes choices based on perceived risks, vulnerability, and self-efficacy. Methods. Two search tools I used to search for articles were google.scholar.com and Texas State University's online library. Using Google Scholar, the terms relating to capitulation and related constructs like risks, vulnerability, and self-efficacy can be used as keywords. Specifically, examples of searches used to look for related articles include healthcare security threat, healthcare information security perception, healthcare security vulnerability, and giving up information security. Additionally, the related articles button under the article results in Google Scholar can be useful in identifying relevant articles. Also, using quotes for words you want to appear in a certain order next to each other is also helpful. Results. Types of articles that I chose and I thought were relevant included articles that were expository, articles that carried out empirical investigations, and articles that conducted a review of literature. Articles that carried out empirical studies often used theories such as protection motivation theory, and the authors would build multiple hypotheses based on the components of protection motivation theory. The empirical studies commonly used surveys to study participants' responses. Most articles were peer-reviewed, and most articles were published in major journals like Elsevier and MIS Quarterly. The chosen articles covered areas and topics such as information security, healthcare, security policy, and compliance behaviors. Meta-analysis and fear appeal. An article titled, "What Do Systems Users Have to Fear? Using Fear Appeals to Engender Threats and Fear that Motivate Protective Security Behaviors," was published in 2015 for Management Information Systems, or MIS Quarterly. It performs a meta-analysis of the practices of information security research, and the authors conduct their own empirical investigations. The authors review current information security literature and they identified 3 areas of opportunity: response cost and response efficacy are components of protection motivation theory, and the authors point out that they are usually left out when conducting research. They propose that researchers should adhere to the original components of protection motivation theory, such as perceived risks, vulnerability, and self-efficacy. The authors also propose that information security research can be improved by including fear appeals. They explain that fear motivates people to have protective behaviors. A third improvement the authors identify are measuring fear appeal. They state that measuring fear can show whether perceived security threats reach an adequate level of fear. One of the hypotheses proposed by the authors is that greater fear appeal will show stronger relationships for fear, intention, and behavior. The authors used fear manipulations in their studies. In the first study regarding backing up data, had one group of participants that received minimal messages regarding backups, while the other received messages that were more explicit and numerous. The second study used a website with a virus pop-up warning. The high and low threat levels were employed by having one group receive a message saying that the virus would wipe out their hard drive, and the other low threat group would have the virus change the computer username. In both studies, the authors found that the high threat groups performed as predicted, but the low threat groups did not perform as expected. For example, in the first study, the low threat group had more unexplained variance. I think this result is interesting because it could be that the fear message for the low groups did not arouse the participants enough to act. Most of the articles that I found did not offer a review of the literature, but I think the authors did an excellent job of commenting on how researchers could improve their investigations. Specifically, the authors made a great proposal to include fear appeals in research due to how important fear is for protection motivation theory. Another reason the article was unique is because it was the only investigation that did not use surveys to measure participant response. Additionally, their non-survey method was effective to measure the fear appeals as it happened in real time with the participants. Conclusion and takeaways. Capitulation is an interesting and developing area of research, and capitulation is the act of giving up or surrendering. Studies that investigate capitulation or information security use protection motivation theory as a research framework. Protection motivation theory says that people make decisions based on how they perceive situations. We looked at an article that provided a meta-analysis of information security literature, and they made observations such as research investigations not adhering to constructs of protection motivation theory, and they pointed out that literature did not include fear appeal, which they proposed was an important aspect to include in the research. This is the end of the presentation, and these are my references. Thank you for listening.